Greetings, and welcome back to the MCOC Encyclopedia. Today, we will be covering the newly released 8.3, and I'll be explaining how I got 100% completion within the first 24 hours. You can do this itemless, absolutely. I think I used 6 in total, and I won't be touching on Hercules at all, because he's annoyingly overpowered, and we want to at least try and keep this fun. I will be covering every single path in 8.3, and who I used to get through it, as well as any other suggestions I may have. And with that, let's dive in. Before we get started properly, just a quick note in general about this quest. If you haven't got your strikers sorted out, now is the time to do so. Whether you like them or not, you need them to get through this quest. You can get through many of the paths without them, but realistically you are going to want them. They make things so much simpler. And for the final Iron Man Cerastes boss, you need a striker. It is not an option, you need one. Otherwise that fight is going to be an absolute nightmare. Luckily though, from what I've found running through it, it doesn't matter which striker you have. You just need a striker. So for example, the Sentinel Relic and Striker, which gives bonuses to Incinerates, if you put that on Shuri, who only works with shocks, it doesn't matter. Even though she gains no direct buff from the striker, you just need a striker. One thing I found while going through this is that you can actually equip strikers from the champion select screen, which actually makes things a lot nicer. No going back to your full roster to try and sort things out every time. Choose the team you want, slap a couple of relics on them, keep moving. Again, you just need a striker. Doesn't matter which one. Right, now into the paths. To start off, we have 8.3.1, and let's take the Sorcerer Supreme path first. All you need here is a Science Champion that can gain a Fury effect. When you gain your Fury, you will also gain a very long Unstoppable. What you do then is knock them down, and this will inflict them with a 30% physical vulnerability, and will also refresh the duration of your Unstoppable. That's it. You need to be unstoppable to deal the defender any meaningful damage, but as long as you bring the right champion, that's no issues at all. I used She-Hulk for the majority of this path, but just make sure you gain your unstoppable before inflicting slow on your heavy attack, as that will actually make sure that you can't gain the unstoppable either. I brought Titania as my secondary option. She gains plenty of furies, no worries there, and actually their synergy together means that once you stack up a few of those physical vulnerabilities, She-Hulk can very easily throw 100k plus heavies, for no worries. Second path is Ant-Man, and all you need in this path is a skill champion with a striker. That's it. Their special attacks will be passively unblockable, but really a skill champion and a striker. You can bring any skill champion you want here. I think I used Nick Fury and Mole Man. Nothing to worry about. Very simple path. All the specials are pretty easy to get out of the way of. Easy peasy. The final path is a weapon path. Use a striker to disarm the weapon, and then heavy knock them down in order to steal the weapon for yourself. Once you've done this, all energy damage will go through the roof, and so you can use anyone that deals major energy damage. Torch, CGR, Apocalypse, and so on will do really well here. For the 0.1 bosses, we have Vulture, Gore, and Omega Sentinel, and these ones are slightly roster dependent, though I imagine by this point you will have most champions available to you. Vulture you can absolutely smite if you bring Gallon as long as he's awakened. Vulture will try and special lock you every time you hit him as long as he has his armor up buff, and based on Gallon's awakened ability you can ramp your charges through the roof and throw 200k special ones back to back for a really easy time. This is who I used. Besides that, you're going to need an armor break option, otherwise you will never be able to throw a special attack, but realistically it's a big Vulture. You can just beat him to death, nothing major there. Secondly, we have Gore, and here I used Longshot. As long as you don't break Shruggers, you should be fine, but realistically again, this is just a big Gore. You can use many options here. Doom, Rintrah, Heisig, Ronan, etc. I'm sure would all work just fine. Lastly, we have Omega Sentinel, and she'll be gaining even more armor ups than usual. Simply bring any champion that can crit, because when you crit against this node it will consume one of the armor ups, but your crit will do no damage. I actually used Venompool here because he can steal her armors and regenerate like crazy. A really good option. Moving into 8.3.2, starting on the Kitty path. Here, when you inflict a debuff as a tech champion, you have a 40% chance to inflict a non-stacking cowardice passive on the defender. This will reduce their special attack damage, but also interact with the other nodes. Bravado means they try and keep gaining furies, but they can't do this as long as they have that cowardice on them. Also, every 20 hits on your combo meter, they will go unblockable for 5 seconds. So here we just need tech champions that can inflict a good load of debuffs. Personally, I use Nimrod, Warlock and Rocket Raccoon, but there are many good options here. Again, any tech champions with debuffs, you'll be fine. Going down the middle, we have Gambit, and here you can bring any Cosmic, as long as you put a Striker on them. I think I use Cosmic Ghost Rider here, but again, launch the Striker, get aptitudes, you can only do damage as long as you have aptitudes. Pretty much any champion can work here, as long as they're Cosmic, and again, we have a Striker. Hulkling is also an excellent option here, as he just gains them all the time, and Odin is a great one as well, as long as you only use him on every other fight, because he needs to sleep in order to get his aptitude. Relatable. Going down the right hand side, we have another weapons path. This one to disarm them, use special knockdown, and then a Striker to capture the weapon. Whilst they are disarmed, mega special 2s, so again, any big special 2 champion here can work fine. I use Cosmic Ghost Rider, absolutely shredded the majority of the path, and I also brought Rocket Raccoon for a bit of fun, because it's always nice to see his massive special 2s. For the bosses, let's start off with Dormammu. The only things to note here are he has Brute Force, and Fight or Flight, so when that timer goes round for the Unstoppable, you are going to want to be far away, so you gain it, not him. However, that means there's a buff that's going to expire off you, and this is Dormammu, so bring on the degen. Either you have a slow option and stay close to him, so let him gain it so you don't, or you just tank the degen damage and do as much as possible. I went for both, and actually tried Torch to start with, messed up, but I'm pretty sure he could get it down, and then cleared up with She-Hulk, who did very well, going with that latter strategy of making sure that he gains the buffs, not you. Secondly, we have Atuma, and this guy is an absolute nightmare. I tried Shuri against him, very bad idea, because he has shock vulnerability. However, he also has redoubled determination, which means after one hit, he went straight to his special 3 once I'd stacked up some debuffs. Not a great move. I imagine Doom could be pretty good here, because you just sort of want to have one shock on them at once, but any shocking champion could be fine. Nimrod did okay, but not amazing. This fight's a real pain, you are going to be taking that damage back. If you don't care about the shock vulnerability, you can just use any standard Atuma counter, so, bust out your Omega Red and see what you can do here. If you ignore shock vulnerability and redoubled, his only node is aggressive, and we like to see that at the best of times anyway. Lastly, we have Mephisto, and the only thing really to note here is bring in a Striker, shockingly enough. Every now and again, throw your Striker for some extra damage, and also to clear his protection. This was an easy one-shot with Torch and pre-fight. 8.3.3 starts off with a Kingpin path, and as long as you have a prowess, this path will offer you basically no worries at all. They do have tenacity on them, but whenever any one of your stuns are shrugged off, it's replaced with quite a long passive stun, allowing you to go for 10-hit combos. OG Storm was amazing here, allowing me to very easily run up hundreds of thousands of damage per special attack, because you need to keep a few of those prowesses around. If you don't have prowess, they'll go unstoppable and stun immune, and this is quite an issue. More prowess is better. Also, whenever any of your debuffs are shrugged off with OG Storm, she will gain a whole stack of prowess, so very quickly can ramp up to some very insane levels, and a really, really good option. Other prowess options work as well, but that's the one I found to be best. Moving into the middle, we have the Dr. Octopus path. This one is our weapons path for this chapter, and to disarm them, it's a heavy attack. To steal the weapon, it's the wall knockdown. But in order to get big damage here, you gain 2000% damage on a Striker. You can lean into this if you want, and get a champion with a whole bunch of Furies to push that damage through the roof, or just kind of ignore it, and basically just say, oh, once I've captured the weapon, it's a special burst lockdown path. Basically nothing to it, the only defender to watch out for is Cap Sam. Anyone can take this path, Strikers are best. Finally, the Sauron path is another tech champion focused one. The more armor rating you have, the more damage you will deal on your special attacks. Throwing a Striker, you give you even more armors. Nimrod was amazing on this path, he absolutely shredded most things in one special 2. I tried War Machine, he wasn't as great, didn't like him, and Omega Sentinel actually did very well here as well, so those two can really carry through. For the bosses, we'll start off with Venom Pool. Honestly, can't remember who I used for this guy, but just watch out for the fact that he'll be stun immune half the fight, but while he's not stun immune, he'll take much more damage while stunned. Not much to him, just remember to knock him down every now and again to keep the rush down charges high. Anti-Venom in the middle is very simple, just make sure he has debuffs on him, and Polka Dot Power will make sure that damaging debuffs are the only way you can get damage. Dexing will put a load of debuffs on both of you, so you can have a bit of fun with that if you want to, say, bring Zemo, for example, or Kingpin and just use a lot of damage and beat him to death. Many options here. I used Nick Fury. I did also try Zemo as well and got special 3'd, but that's just on me being a scrub. Finally, we have Null, and he can be a little tricky. His specials only cost half, so expect to see that special 1 a lot if you can't get him to special 2, and the buffs that he gains from his corruption expiring will last indefinitely as long as you aren't close to him for them to fall off. This can be quite an issue though, as he's unblockable and unstoppable, which means staying close can be quite tricky. I used Absorbing Man here, and he shredded, very impressed there. 1 special 2, I managed to avoid the special 1s, medium light medium, heavy counter into special 1, did that a couple of times, and the fight was down. Very nice option. The 8.3.4 Gladiator Hulk path is an odd one, but essentially you just need to keep bleeding the opponent in order to keep a passive slow on them. This will then counteract the Footloose node, which will trigger their Unstoppable and Evade every time they throw a special. Something that I missed first time is that actually you only get the slow when you apply a bleed, not whilst they are bleeding. I tried to use Zemo here for his permanent bleeds, but that is not a good option. You need someone that can apply lots of bleeds. Nick Fury and Mole Man became my MVPs here, really, really good. The Elsa Bloodstone path down the middle, I managed to shred in its entirety with Apocalypse. Essentially, you just need someone with a prowess, and throwing a striker will give you a big prowess. Special 1, special 2, and the fight was pretty much over. Not too bad. The Jabari Panther is the only annoying champion there, because of her additional cleanses. The top path via Massacre, or Massacre, is our weapons path here. Disarm them via Striker, and then special 2 knockdown to capture the weapon from them. Whilst captured, or at least whilst unarmed, their physical resistance will be massively reduced, so any champion that deals most of their damage via physical damage is an excellent option. I believe I used Hulkling here, really, really good damage from his special 2s. This path isn't too bad, or this quest in general isn't too bad, but then we hit the bosses. Firstly, we have Thing, and for now, as this video goes out, he is unduped. No idea if that's going to stay like it, so could be worth getting in there quickly before that changes. All you want to do against this thing is intercept him. If you parry him, he will stun you, unless you can poison or incinerate him, but you've got Foresight, so it just pays just intercept, 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 you'll be fine. I have a feeling this fight might have been designed to be awakened, because then when you intercept, you'll trigger his protection because you deal too much damage, and it's meant to be annoying like that, forcing you to use ability accuracy reduction champions such as Falcon or Crossbones. But for the moment, he isn't, so I'd get in there quickly. Misty Knight is annoying if you don't bring the right counter. Essentially, when you put a damaging debuff on her, you have a chance to gain a true accuracy buff that can avoid all of her evades and all that rubbish. She also has a lot of evading nodes on her, and is immune to ability accuracy reduction, making this basically our only option. Again, I used Apocalypse here. After the first heavy attack I had True Strike, and he can also counter her Shrug Off for a pretty easy time. But any damage over time champion can most likely take this fight. I'd stick with mutants if you have them. Archangel could actually be an amazing option here, though I haven't tried him. Finally, we have Wong. The best thing to do here is avoid yourself getting unstoppable, unblockable, power gains, evades, or indestructibles, as he will then gain his own version of them, and that becomes quite annoying. I used a combination of Torch and She-Hulk here. My Torch died because I'm bad, but then She-Hulk cleared up with no issues at all. Just remember to safely release his Eldritch Energy when it charges up too high, and She-Hulk slow is really nice to have because he likes to go unstoppable. Now into 8.3.5, and kicking off on the left-hand side with Scarlet Witch Sigil. This is our weapon path for this quest. Stun them to disarm it, nice and easy, and then dex one of their special attacks in order to capture the weapon. Whilst they're disarmed, your strikers will deal massively increased damage, or you can choose to ignore the weapon and just continually disarm them of it, and then you can just see that it's a Hale and Hearty lane, which means there's not much to it. In the middle we have the Red Goblin lane. And this one is just bring your Mystic champions, and you guessed it, everyone needs a striker here. Any Mystic can take this just fine. When you activate your striker, they will be power drained. When you power drain them, you gain a Fury, much like each month's event quest. They will be gaining more and more power as the fight goes on, and you can reset some of this by activating a striker, but some of it is just based on how long the fight's been going. I used Doom and Diablo here, but again, any Mystic and you'll be absolutely fine. Moving over to the right hand side, we have the Rocket Raccoon path. When you inflict a damaging debuff here, using a Cosmic Champion, you will also armor break the opponent, and one of the nodes will also grant you True Strike. This means you can get around all the nasty evades that could be going on. Great options here include Gore, Venom, Red Goblin if you bring Odin with him right from the start of the fight, really any Cosmic with damaging debuffs and you will cruise through this lane, no issues. There is a Mysterio at the end, so something to watch out for. For the bosses, starting with Bishop, this is kind of just a big Bishop. He does have a route available to him, but as long as you're far away when the timer expires, he will get routed, not you. Here I used Infamous Iron Man, or iDoom, and had absolutely no problems. Mine's only rank 3, and he absolutely tore him apart. No worries at all. In the middle, we've got Quicksilver. Bring a Shrugging Champion here for his debuffs, but note, whenever you shrug one off, he will gain a Fury. However, if you intercept him, it will convert all of those Furies into a really big degen. So, Shrug, Intercept, degen. Good times. Here I used Kingpin for an easy solo, but any Shrugging Champion will be just fine. Finally, we have this Havoc, and he is an absolute pain and possibly the biggest fluking fight I've had in a while. When you armor break him, you will gain an armor up buff. However, if he armor breaks you, he will gain an armor up buff. Obviously, this is Havoc, because we want to keep an armor up buff on us at all times. However, if he even so much as touches your block, he will armor break you. When he armor breaks you, he will gain his own armor, and from one of the other nodes, he will also go unblockable. Here then, we need champions that can armor break him without relying on blocked hits too much. I went in here with Hulkling just to test the waters and somehow got a solo, however, would not recommend him here. There are many, many better options. Any armor breaking champion for a start. Finally, on to 8.3.6. First up we have the Hyperion path, and I managed first time round just to go through this all the way with Dr. Doom. I say first time round because I ended up doing this path twice because I got all the way to the boss and realised I'd forgotten to put my strikers on, so had to quit out and come do it again. When Mystic attackers nullify a buff on the defender, they will also inflict a really meaty neutralise passive. It's only 30%, but it does last for 20 seconds, so stack a few of these up, and they're not going to be gaining buffs at all. Second time round, I also used Venompool because I was bringing him in for the boss, and was bored of playing Dr. Doom, just wanted to go around a bit. You do have long distance Eternity to deal with, meaning their Furies, Unblockables, True Damages and Power Gain buffs won't fall off. While you are far away, you need to get up close and personal to have those buffs fall off. Really not a difficult path. There is a Hulkling near the end, but everyone else is pretty straightforward. Going left, we have Voodoo, and here just bring any Science Champion with a striker. I took the whole path with Scorpion, and he was amazing for it. You will start with your Spirit Gauge full, and when you activate your striker, you will also deal additional burst damage to the opponent. More importantly, if you are using a Science Champion, you will inflict them with a stun passive when activating it, so you can throw it whenever you want, and also you will inflict a Crush debuff for 25 seconds. This is the debuff equivalent of Unblockable, meaning you can just go absolutely ham. Yes, they have a chance to auto-block you. Yes, they might be unblockable from that non-damaging debuff. It doesn't matter, you will be pretty much fully unblockable the entire fight, and it's actually quite a fun path to do. You can get many fights here which are no damage taken just by dancing around. Again, I used Scorpion, but really, any Science Champion with Striker, you'll be fine. Lastly, going down, we have Spider-Man path. This is our weapon path for this chapter, and so in order to disarm them, we just got to get to a combo multiple of 15, and then to capture the weapon, we need to use a striker, funnily enough. Here, if you do then crit them once you've captured the weapon, you will inflict them with a small Cold Snap passive. However, while they are unarmed, they will take additional critical damage, and they also have cold vulnerability, meaning if you can put that Cold Snap on them from the weapon, they'll be taking even more damage. Pretty much anyone can take this path. You'll want an evade counter for the Spider-Man and the Spider-Gwen, and probably a Mangog counter as well, because he can be a bit annoying. Some big critters will also have fun here. Finally, we have the Cerastes boss, the corrupted Iron Man. And right here, I'm just going to say it, I'm going to cop out. I'm going to link down below a video by Simula. That is the guide I used on how to get through this guy. He had it prepared because he had access to the CCP beta, and it went out as soon as this went live. It is really good. It covers everything you need to know. Again, it's what I used. If you really want to go in blind, bring Cosmic Champions with buffs, and you need a striker. But seriously, go watch that video first. It's what I used. I managed to get 2 out of 3 solos, and one of them was about a 70% solo. So, yeah, really good guide. Very helpful. So that's it. Hopefully, everything you need to know to get through 8.3, relatively itemless. As I said to start with, I used about 6 revives, but that's just because I'm bad. All of this could be done without, and if you bring in Hercules, I'm sure you can cheese your way through a lot of it. I have a Discord server that I will link below, so please join that if you have any further questions, or you can leave them in the comments and I will try and answer as many as I can. Thank you, and I will see you next time.